first impulse is to run. And when there's no place left to run, pray. Pray like there's no tomorrow. Because for the people dying all around you, tomorrow will never come. No one knows where to hide, how to save themselves, how to survive. Bodies beyond number. A firestorm of violence and madness. The terrible vengeance of God. It is the Black Death of the Middle Ages. The greatest biological disaster in the history of mankind. It is, as one witness testifies, the end of the world. At the dawn of the 14th century, Western civilization is riding a phenomenal streak of prosperity.
Europe has had 3, maybe 4 centuries of really good times. The church has been strong, various kingdoms have been strong, trade has grown, cities have grown, industry has grown, there haven't been any natural catastrophes, weather's been nice, population's been growing. It's really been a nice time for Europe.
But this long expansion is about to collide with a new reality. Suddenly, global climate patterns shift. Temperatures plummet and crops fail. With startling swiftness, the Golden Age collapses and visions of the apocalypse come true.
The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse have come. Famine hits, plague hits, war is all over, and death is all over.
By the 1340s, war ravages the continent. The deepening crisis hits peasants hard. But nobles see an opportunity to make their fortune in the escalating chaos. At 33, Edward III of England is a seasoned ruler, and his island kingdom is not big enough to contain his ambition. In August of 1347, Edward's army wins an improbable victory at Calais over his much wealthier rival, Philip VI of France. Edward now controls much of the French seacoast, but the conflict is far from over.
This is the beginning of the 100 Years' War, and which is really a world war as far as the Europeans are concerned. It involves everywhere: Spain, Germany, Italy, France, England.
King Edward promises his daughter Joan to Pedro, the Prince of Spanish Castile. It is a match meant to extend his reach as far as the Iberian Peninsula. For a marriage between the 2 royal families will redraw the map of Europe and make Edward's line the mightiest in Christendom. Barely 15, Joan has never met her fiancé, nor has she ever been to Spain. Like any young girl, Joan dares to hope her father has chosen a handsome prince, perhaps even a kind one. "400 miles to the south, in Avignon, France, Pope Clement VI, God's representative on earth, considers his own prospects. For 1,000 years, his Holy Catholic Church has lorded over king and peasant alike, the greatest power in the Middle Ages.
The religion of a medieval person was their life. It surrounded them. They thought nothing of going to church every day. Their life consisted of a lot of blessings which they attributed to God, and cursings which they kind of attributed to God too, although they blamed it on their sins. So their whole life was enveloped in this religious atmosphere.
But in the 14th century, the church's seemingly impregnable facade begins to crack.
Priests were coming under a lot of criticism. for abusing their power. We have lots of examples of priests who had concubines, priests who slept with women in the village, priests who were considered corrupt.
Even the Pope seems tainted. The French have hijacked the papacy, moving it from Rome to Avignon. The break with tradition seems to suit Clement VI, a worldly man who enjoys his opulent lifestyle, but it scandalizes the faithful. Despite the skeptics, Clement's word still carries absolute authority. But will it be enough to sustain his flock when the world comes crashing in?
Questo è un messaggio urgente per il chirurgo. Sì.
The one man who will prove to be his most trusted and courageous advisor is his personal physician, Guy de Chauliac.
He's the medical practitioner of great renown. He had been in court medical circles since the reign of Philip the Fair around the turn of the 14th century, and now he is the attending physician, so to speak, of the Pope.
In de Chauliac's world, religion rules science. So entwined are the two that a medical degree can only be earned with a master's degree in theology as well. But neither his medical texts nor his Bible will prepare de Chauliac for the horror to come. Far to the east, on the Mongolian steppes, something terrible has awakened. An invisible agent of death. Rumors fly that all of humanity is being wiped out in China, India, and the Islamic world.
Interestingly enough, these rumors of origins in the East are accompanied by apocalyptic descriptions of the plague's origins. There were miraculous events that occurred, a rain of frogs, serpents, and so forth. There was a rain of hail and thunder and lightning, and then finally stinking smoke and thunder fell from the heavens.
Before 1347, the Mongols seem unstoppable. Their dominion over the East has lasted nearly 150 years in an empire stretching from the peaks of Tibet to beyond the Volga River, and from Beijing to Constantinople.
Essentially, they opened up trade between Western Europe and China. People could essentially follow routes that went through Central Asia, so that the second half of the 13th century in particular was a time for expansion of European trade toward the east.
But as the Mongols make the world a better place for business, they also plant the seeds of its destruction.
We have very valuable goods and cargo, such as spices and silk, passing along this overland route opened up by the Mongols through their unified empire. But of course, another commodity would have been plague.
Relentlessly, the pestilence creeps across the steppes, wiping out whole villages, the bodies swollen with malignant sores. In this harsh wilderness, nothing goes to waste. Valuable goods like furs and blankets are always salvaged. The rest is torched, an attempt to kill the evil that caused this tragedy. But the unseen demon travels with the loot. In 1347, thousands of miles to the west in the bustling trade city of Geneva, a servant prepares to make a dangerous journey. In a society defined by the doctrines of the Christian Church, he is already at risk. His name is Agamett, and he is a Jew.
Jews had to have the explicit invitation and permission of the king to be in a town. They were, in a way that no other medieval person was, owned and directly dependent upon the king or a great noble like a bishop.
At his lord's bidding, Agamot will venture hundreds of mountainous miles to Venice, where he can purchase luxuries which are unavailable in the common market stalls of his home. But his expedition also takes him into the darkest events of history. In England, a rider is approaching the end of another daunting journey. A troubadour, he has traveled for weeks, all the way from Spain. He is a gift from the Prince of Castile, sent to amuse his betrothed, the English Princess Joan. He will sing her songs of love on her wedding voyage to Castile, a romantic gesture for the pleasure of a young girl. On the way to Castile, Joan and her entourage plan to stop on the French coast and visit their estate in Bordeaux. A favorite among the 12 children born to her father, Edward III, Joan has lacked for little in her short life. On this momentous voyage, her dresses alone require an entire ship. Along with many distinguished clergymen and diplomats, 100 bowmen will make the journey to protect this precious cargo. But their precautions will come to nothing. Within a year, almost all of them will be dead. Even now, the invasion has begun, carried on the lowly backs of small stowaways. A ticking bomb, it will bring this beautiful world crashing down. Trade routes opened by the Mongol Empire now encourage the spread of goods, people, and pestilence into the heart of Europe. Travelers on the road, peasants in the field, and even the daughter of the King of England are all speeding towards an inevitable encounter with the greatest killer in the history of mankind, the Black Death. At the end of the Mongol trade routes lies the port city of Kaffa on the Black Sea, starting point for merchant ships en route to Italy. In 1347, the Mongols attacked the Christian city of Kaffa, hoping to take this vital trade link for themselves. At first, it seems as if the town will fall to the relentless assault. But in the heat of hostilities, the Mongols suddenly confront a virulent new enemy, plague. It inspires them to launch a final desperate plan.
The Mongols got the plague and had to call off the siege. But before they left, they decided to catapult their dead corpses, their dead bodies of their victims, into the town in order to, quote, extinguish everyone inside and give the plague to their enemies. And apparently this is how the plague was communicated by the Mongols to Europeans.
It just may be the first incident of germ warfare in recorded history. While the story might be more legend than fact, the Mongol pestilence spreads to the townspeople of Kaffa.
The plague is fairly slow-moving for an epidemic disease. In 15 years, given the vast stretches of the steppe and the thinness of the population, would be about the right time to get it to Kaffa.
But while these facts seem clear, a mystery remains. After such a slow beginning, how does the plague spread to Europe so fast?